Hey guys, Tim Kell, TKL Knives. So we're going to kind of go through the birth and the growing up process of a few of our blades. Kind of neat to just look back. I was in my other barn the other day and it's not even climate control, and I just was reminiscing, and camera wife said, hey, you should tell people so they can see the progression of these things. So we're going to go through some of our popular models, the handmade, ugly, rusted out, busted up versions of stuff, and we're just going to kind of graduate to where they are now. So we'll just start with our newest blade release here. So we're going to go from Mercenary. So this is kind of how interesting. When I used to work for the railroad, there's a lot of pickup steel laying all over the place. So these two guys, this was made out of a rail clip from the railroad, as was this one. So these two were pickup found steels. I would assume they're close to 5160 steel. So this was the first of this style blade that I made. You know, this is funny. At the old railroad depot next door, they were redoing the floors, and they threw away a bunch of this flooring. Don't even know what the freaking wood is. And these copper pins in here are from an old cleaning set of rods. So, you know, this guy, I don't know how old it is. This is one of my first ones. This was actually beat out on the anvil and ground to shape. So kind of a lot of sentiment in this one. Then I wanted something with more shape, so we went to this one, and I think this is probably an '01 tool steel. So you can kind of see how this guy ended up the Bushman. So this was actually one of the first blades that got me noticed. So hand file jimping, rusty as hell, but it was kind of comfortable, but a little weird and out of balance and super pregnant. It's gonna have a baby knife. That's what happened. Boop, there it is. It's just not comfortable. I always was trying to find comfortable as a thing. So again, beat out on the anvil, hand file shaped. Then I made a grinder because I liked what I was doing, and I came out with, this is the Bushman, I don't know, Gen whatever number that is. So this is the hand ground version here. The hand-shaped handles, when I first got the new screws, Cerakote, which is ass compared to nickel boron, but anyway. So then we went to a machined handle after I got all of these perfected. So these are hand ground in, and then we machined these in. You can see how we went from, you know, a really good blade that got us a lot of notoriety to really perfecting and getting on that professional level. With the machined out version, everything's perfected, same every time, so we could streamline our sheaths and interchangeable handles. So that's that kind of progression here. The Mercenary originally was started as just a drawing for some guys that wanted a combat style blade. One of the guys was a ranger, and they had a lot of ideas. They submitted me 1.5 million pictures of, can you mix this with that? And then I didn't really care for what they were doing, and I made my own thing, and they fell off the earth. And I made one, and I freaking loved it, and so did another one of the guys that works with us. And it sat for like a year, and we finally just released this blade, and I'm telling you, this thing is awesome. So you'll see the notes of the handle shape from the Bushman, because the Bushman has a great grip. It just kind of grew up. We needed a bigger blade, heavier jimping, more of a combat style blade. This thing is bad. So you want to go to the Taylor's Ridge. This is one of the very first blades I ever made in my whole entire life. Used to be our cover photo. So I refined it a little bit more after making some of this other stuff. And a G10 handle, you know, a high flat grind, some rust. This is just an acid etch and ferric chloride. So I liked this blade shape, but there were some things I didn't like about it. So then we moved to what is now the Taylor's Ridge. I don't have a current Taylor's Ridge because you animals buy them all. But the difference between this and the current version is you're going to have this similar style, forward leaning and a choil. So there's a couple. So the Raider, one of our most popular blades, one of my most favorite blades still. This is kind of the progression. So this was called the Ranger at one point, but this was kind of born from a drawing and a blade of something my dad had sketched out years ago before his brain injury. And this was really when I started to kind of get into making a handle that was shapely and comfortable for your blades. So that you could have a full-length blade, but not a handle that everybody could see, because I worked in a job where they didn't like you having personal knives, but I still refused to listen. So we would take these to the markets and the shows, and people were like, man, this grip is really comfortable. Have you thought about trying this thing? So I'd be like, no, but I listen. So I would just mold my stuff and make it into, this is the first hand ground Raider. So drilled out, you know, trying to really get this handle super comfortable. And I wanted a little bit deeper belly on a blade because I just did. So I thought this was too shallow. So this was the first Raider. We took this thing after listening to a lot of people and said, okay, I'm going to debut this thing. Let's try it out. So people were like, wow. So I really worked hard on the balance of this blade. It's a little thinner, it's 150 thick steel, and now we're currently using the 165 to get that balance point just right. So these are kind of my first forays into machining. So you can kind of see how ugly these things are to get to where we're at now on the current Raider shape. So this was the very first one that we did the sharpening choil. So still even a little different from this now. So just a refined down version of this guy. So the Raider, ultra popular. Let's do the Nightshade because it's really the one that's got a lot of drastic changes. So had an officer come to us from a local police department, and he wanted something that he could magwell mount and whatever get off of me. So I had never heard of a reverse tanto, so I made this. So this is a hand ground, very first Nightshade right here. So primary, secondary. And then I wanted, the ring was a little too small. So you see these two, I powder coated this one here actually in-house. And the coating was just okay. But then I kept having people say the ring needed to be bigger. So here is your first bigger ring model. So it's really this, really lightened it up, made it thinner. And I mean, look at the difference in the ring size. It's probably 1/4 of an inch bigger. Much more comfortable blade. So then this is the first test of nickel boron. Then people kept asking me, can you put a handle on that? So I'm like, sure, I'll try to put a handle on it. So we made them with a handle. So that's why we added these two holes to bolt a handle to. I forgot to bring over some of the old handle material. So they used to stop right here, right? So that's where that handle went, there and there. So then this was a Warncliffe that came later, and you'll see this I thought was laid back too far, kept the blade too far behind your handles because that was some feedback I got, so I rolled it forward. Makes sense, right? So we ran these like this with these shorty style handles forever, and then I wanted to really started moving towards well balanced handling blades so that they moved better for the feedback I was getting, and I took the pockets out. And I brought the handle up to this distance so that we could use the Night Stalker handles on them that people were going crazy for at this time. So I took the pockets out, made it a heavier, more substantial blade. And then if you look at the overall footprint of this blade, we wanted to push this out to 1.5 inches so that it would be legal to carry everywhere, max length, and have a bigger blade. So, I mean, the freaking finger hole is giant compared to the original. The handle shape is really similar. And this was born before the Night Stalker. So much bigger finger hole, much bigger blade, and a heavier duty without the pocketing. It just wasn't necessary, so we changed to the handle. So that's kind of the progression of the Nightshades. We used to offer more blades that weren't as popular with that. Some of our blades, like, so let's start with this. Not start with this, let's move on to, this was the predecessor to the Combatant. This was called the Bird. So the Bird was a bird and trout style knife. So this is huge, 1/4 inch thick steel. Although the handle work is beautiful, it just wasn't really wieldy. So we narrowed it, made a thinner steel out of it, and shaped the grip a little better, and it ended up being called the Bird. And people really liked that blade. And then a customer came along one day and said, look, I got smaller hands. I love this blade shape. Can you make me something that's got finger wells? 2 of them, and I had never seen that. So I was like, let me see what I can try. So I made one and told camera wife, wow, I really like this blade. So I made myself one. So here it is. So you can tell a little bit sloppy on the grinds here. So this side looks good, but this side doesn't. That's another reason we moved into doing some of this stuff by the machine. So we changed it from the Bird to the Bird 2.0. So then nobody was buying this and everybody liked this better. So I was like, let me just refine this down. So I wanted to add 3 pinholes to this so that I could mount it to the same grinding fixtures as the Raider so that it would fit, right? And you could still tie your lanyard off in the back. So that's what we did with this guy. And then somebody bought one and said, man, this is a great little mini combat style blade. You can really hang on to this thing. So I was like, And he said, had you thought about making a swedge on the back for thinner cut since it's a smaller blade? And I was like, no, sir, I have not, but let me try one. So then we move on to what is now called the Combatant. So I went Bird 2.0, Combatant, and then we refined it. So really cleaned up this grind to where it's uniform all the time. Added a sharpening choil, added the swedge, brought the handles over where we could make them all fit exactly the same. I used to offer these press-in pins with an arbor press. I had a special set of flaring dies made. This is just a refrigerant line. So we've moved to these style screws now where you can take the handle on and off and switch the colors, or get pathogen and crap out from behind your handle, or switch them to pink if you're having a pink day. So that's kind of the progression of some of our stuff. So all of this to be said, that the progression of these knives kind of shows from when we were first born to our graduation. But I don't know if you could hear in the video, they changed because people would say, hey, and we had this unique ability to put our knives in front of people after I'd make 1, and then I'd make 5, and then I'd make 10, tweak, tweak, tweak. So please continue to give your feedback, ideas. Let's talk about this. So this is the Guardian. I drew a few pictures for a customer, Joe Miller, and he said, it's not really exactly, we weren't clicking together on what exactly he could describe via email that he was looking for. And he sent me just a quick sketch of an outline of a blade, and I went, holy crap. I didn't do much to this profile other than change it to where it fit better and it balanced properly. It changed the steel thicknesses and added my own idea on grinds and added a sharpening choil to it and sketched it out. So his blade idea and my expertise in balance and cutability and usability and handle platforms was born the Guardian, which is one of our most popular blades. And it came out of his Brian and my Brian. That's TKL for brain. So all of that said, you saw the progression of the Raider. It became the Raider because you guys were like, hey, have you thought of? And I go, nope, I'm not a diva. I don't know everything. So keep it coming, you know. Small finger holes get bigger. Blade shapes, balance points, handles. Is there something you need in a blade that you can't find anywhere? That's why TKL is growing so fast, because we have that ability to kind of transcend the diva knife maker attitude of, you like what I make and I don't give a crap what you like. You're stupid. And I go, that make a lot of sense. I mean, this is what you want. So we design blades around that. So keep it coming. TKL is you guys as much as it is me and camera wife. So thanks for watching. Keep the input feedback coming, guys. I really appreciate it.